Welcome to the Python for AI development course by AssemblyAI. I'm Patrick, and together with my colleague Misra, we will teach you how you can use Python to build with AI. So first, let's talk about the course outline and also talk about who this course is for. So this course is a fast track to building machine learning models and AI-powered apps. And we expect that you already have some programming knowledge, but you might be new to Python, or you already know some Python but are new to AI, and in any case now you want to learn about AI. So we don't explain programming concepts here, and we also don't explain Python concepts in detail. Instead, you will pick up the Python syntax on the go, so we use a hands-on approach. And now let's talk about the course outline. We split the course into 5 different lessons, so 5 videos. In the first one, this one, we talk about how you can set up your Python development environment to build with AI. Then we talk about data cleaning and preparation with pandas. Then you will learn how you can build your first own machine learning model with a popular machine learning library. Then you will learn how to use model hubs to easily access state-of-the-art models if you don't want to build them on your own. And as an alternative approach, instead of using a model hub, we also talk about important APIs for AI development. So I show you a few important ones and also show you how to use them. And of course, if you want to skip some lessons and already know some concepts, feel free to skip them and watch only what you're interested in. So let's start with lesson 1, and let's talk about the outline for this video here. First, we talk about how to install Python. So we start at the very beginning. I will leave timestamps below, so of course feel free to skip this as well if you know this. Then we talk about how you can install Anaconda and how to use Conda to manage different Python environments and also install the packages you need. Then you will learn how to set up a local development environment with VS Code for Python. And lastly, we talk about how to use Jupyter notebooks and Google Colabs if you want a cloud environment. So let's get started. So first, let me show you how to install Python on your machine. So I'm on a Mac, so I show it to you on a Mac, but the approach is very similar on Windows. And I also quickly mention how to do it on Linux. So there are different ways how to do this, and we do it via the official website. So let's go to python.org, and then you can click on downloads. And here it's already suggesting the latest version for my operating system, in this case Mac OS, and right now the latest version is Python 3.11.2. If you want another specific version, you can scroll down here, and here you find older releases as well. For example, we can click on Python 3.10.10 and then again scroll down, and here you find the different installers. So if you're on Windows, the recommended one is the Windows installer 64-bit. So then you can click on here and this will start the download. If you're on Mac, you can choose the Mac OS installer. So this is what I'm doing here. And then once the download is finished, simply click on this and then follow the installation instructions. And then it should be installed on your machine. So this is how to do it for Windows and Mac. If you're on Linux, you can do it via the command line. So first you could test if it's already installed. Sometimes it's already there. So you can type Python 3 -- version. And if you're seeing a version, then it's already on your machine. If not, you can use those 2 commands, so sudo apt-get update and then sudo apt-get install Python, and you could also specify the version here, and then this should install Python on your machine. And after installation, we can now test this in the terminal. So here we can type Python -- version, and now you should see the version you've installed. On some systems, like you've just seen on the Linux, you could also, or you have to use Python 3 -- version. In my case, both will work and both will point to the same Python version. Yeah, just test whatever works on your machine. So now we have Python on our machine, but before we write our first Python code, I want to install one more thing. So this installation gave us the Python standard library, but often when we code with AI, we use third-party packages. For example, Pandas, scikit-learn, TensorFlow, PyTorch, you might have heard of them. These are all third-party packages that we have to install on top. And for this, we are going to use, there are also different ways how to do this. In this video, we use Anaconda, which makes it super simple. So let's learn about Anaconda. Now let's learn about Anaconda and how we can use it to manage different Python versions, different Python environments, and also install third-party packages. So for this, you can go to anaconda.com/products/distribution. And here you find some information about this. For example, with Anaconda, we get access to the Anaconda repository. And this features over 8,000 open source data science and machine learning packages. And then we also get the conda command line interface. And with this, we can easily manage different Python versions. And we can easily install and update packages and their dependencies. So for example, we can type conda install pandas, and then it will install pandas as a third-party package on our machine as well. And you don't have to use Anaconda to do this and manage all of this, but in my opinion, it just makes your life a lot easier when you work with scientific packages. So this video is a little bit opinionated, so we're going to use Anaconda now. And to install this, you could either download it here. This will give you the full distribution platform. But I prefer to install Miniconda, which is basically a stripped down version that gives us only what we need. So for this, you can type conda.io, and now you will be redirected to this page, and then you can click on Miniconda. Then here again, you can check if Miniconda is right for you. And here again, you will see that Anaconda is the whole thing. It will be 3 GB large. And if you don't mind installing each of the packages on your own, we can do this. Also, this simply gives us fast access to Python and the conda commands, and this is all that we need. So we're going to install Miniconda, and here again you find different installers for Windows, Mac, and Linux. So again, choose your operating system and then download this. In my case, it's the M1 64-bit, and then click on the installer and follow the instructions. So if you ran the installer, you should have conda on your machine, and you can test this by saying conda ---- version, and then you should see the version right here. So let me give you a very quick crash course on how to use conda. And we use conda mainly to manage different environments and then manage the packages within an environment. And you can think of an environment as usually for each project, you want to use a different environment, and each environment gives you the same base Python version, so the standard library. And then for each environment, you want to install different packages. So for different projects, you might need different packages, and you only want to install the packages you need. So this way you keep your system and each environment clean. And this is why we use environments. And to create an environment, we use the command conda create and then -n, and then you give it a name. I call this AI demo here. And now we could hit enter. You could also say Python equal and then specify a specific Python version you want. So now let me use Python 3.11 now, and now hit enter. And this will create a new environment right now with Python 3.11. So now this was created, and now we can activate this with conda activate and then the name, and also we can say conda deactivate again. So let's say conda activate AI demo. And now in my terminal, we now see the name of this environment. And for example, if we say Python ---- version, now we see this is 3.11 because this is what conda installed. So if we say conda deactivate again and then say Python ---- version, then you see this is Python 3.10. So this is what we installed on our system. So let's activate this again. And by the way, you could see all the environments with conda env list. And here you see I have already a few of them on my machine because I use this quite a lot. For example, one is called audio, chim, ml, OpenCV, and so on. So let's activate the AI demo again. And now let's learn how to install different packages here. And to install different packages, we use the command conda install. And now, for example, let's install NumPy, a very popular package, and you can add more in the same line. So for example, let's say also NumPy and pandas, and now hit enter. And now it's installing NumPy and pandas and also all the dependencies it found. So let's hit enter. And now this was installed as well. Of course, later you can also remove this by saying conda remove NumPy again, or you can update the packages with conda update NumPy or whatever you want. And this is how you manage packages within an environment. So like I said earlier, you don't have to use Anaconda. It just makes your life a lot easier. But I also want to show you the default Python way to install packages. And this is, instead of saying conda install and then the package name. And by the way, this might not always work because not all the packages are available via conda. So instead of saying conda install, you can say pip install. And this is the default Python package manager. So you could also say pip install NumPy. I guess this would also work on your machine, but we already installed this in this environment. So let's try this with a different third-party package. So let's say pip install requests. And now this will install this package within this environment. And to uninstall this, we say pip uninstall. So the main difference between pip install and conda install is that pip focuses on Python only, and conda makes sure that also non-Python related libraries and dependencies are installed. And this often makes it a lot easier to get the packages running. And yeah, this is the main difference between conda and pip, but you should know both ways to install third-party packages. Now let's learn how to set up a local Python development environment. And for this, I recommend either using VS Code or PyCharm. These are the most popular IDEs for Python. With PyCharm, you can get started right away. And with Visual Studio Code, you have to do a little bit of configuration. On the other hand, it's more lightweight. So in this video, we use Visual Studio Code. So you can go to code.visualstudio.com and then download the installer for your operating system. Again, here I'm on a Mac, so I downloaded the Mac installer and then followed the instructions. And now you should be able to type code dot, and this will open the editor in your current directory. If you're doing this the first time, it might not be available via this shortcut. So of course you can also start it the normal way, how you start applications. So let's open it this way, and then you can, for example, say open and then choose your directory. And now this will open this directory. So let's explore Visual Studio Code. First of all, let me make this slightly larger for you. So like I said, you can configure this the way you want. So I will change the font size and the zoom factor a little bit. And now let's take a look how VS Code works. So on the left, we see the Explorer, and here we see the folder. Right now, we don't have any files in it. So we can click on New File and create our first Python file, main.py. All Python files end with .py. And now here we could start writing code, but before we do this the very first time, we also have to install one extension. So let's click on extension, and here you can install different extensions to configure your IDE. So here let's search for Python and install the official Python extension from Microsoft. This will give you things like IntelliSense, linting, debugging, even Jupyter Notebook support, which I show you in a few moments. So go ahead and install this here, and now this is the only one you need. I also like to have the Code Runner extension, so with this you can run Python files and other languages more easily. So I installed this here as well. And now we can go back here and start writing our first line of code. So the typical print hello world. And now we can click Command S to save this. And now there are different ways to run a Python file. If you do it from the terminal, you can go into this directory, and here we have the main.py file. And now to run this, we have to say python main.py. And also notice that here I activated this environment before. So now let's say python main.py and enter. and then we see the output hello world. So this is how to run it from the terminal. You can also, of course, run it directly from Visual Studio Code by clicking on this arrow here. So if you run this, then there are different options. You can click on Run Code. I think this is because of the code runner. And then you simply see the output here. Or you can click on Run Python File, and now it will go to the terminal window. And you notice that it already activated it. It activates the environment, so it is smart enough to know that I want to use this in here. And then it runs the file, and it gives us a terminal window in here. So here we could also say conda deactivate, for example, or conda activate the environment again. You also might notice that in the bottom, we can select the Python environment we want. So if we open this, then here are the different ones I have on my machine. So I showed you this before. I have a lot of conda environments. So here you can switch to different ones. And yeah, make sure to always use the one you created for your project. So here I select AI demo. And here, for example, we installed NumPy. So now if we want to use this, we can type import NumPy, and the convention is to import this as NP. Then we don't have to type everything. And now, for example, we can create a NumPy array by saying A equals NP dot array. And then we give this a list. So here we use brackets, and then let's say 1, 2, and 3, those two values. And then let's also simply print this. And now here, if we run this, so we say python main.py, then this should work. Here it prints this. And this is because we are using this environment. For example, if I say conda deactivate, and now if I say python main.py, then we get an error, module not found error, no module named NumPy. And this is because we are not using this environment. So we want to activate this again. And also within Visual Studio Code, for example, if I select a different Python interpreter, for example, this one, or no, this one is actually working. Let's try this one. Here, NumPy is not installed, and here this is underlined because it's not detecting this. So our IDE knows that NumPy is not available in here. So make sure to also select the environment here, and now everything should work. And this is how you can code Python on your machine with Visual Studio Code. So now you know how to work with VS Code and write Python files. And now I want to show you one more thing. And this is how to work with notebooks, or so-called Jupyter notebooks. A Jupyter notebook is a web-based interactive platform to write Python code. And the experience with it is quite different than with a normal Python file. And you will know what I mean in a few moments. But notebooks are super popular among machine learning engineers and data scientists, because it's super convenient to experiment with your code, and this is perfect for data visualization, for example, and also for model development. So let me show you how to work with notebooks, and there are 3 ways how you can use them, in my opinion. The first option is to use this directly inside of VS Code here. The second option is to use the classic Jupyter notebook platform, and the third option is to use a Google Colab, a cloud-based option from Google. So I will show you all 3 options. So first, let's start inside VS Code, and this is supported if you install the Python extension, which is pretty cool. The only thing we have to do is create a new file with the ending ipynb. So let's create a file. Let's call this my notebook, and then we have to say .ipynb. I think this stands for Iron Python Notebook. And now hit enter. And now this created the notebook. Then here, make sure to also select your Python environment. So here the AI demo. And now here we can write the normal Python code. So the syntax is the very same. And then here we can click on run. And if you do this the first time, I think it will prompt you to install the IPy kernel. So we can click on install, and now this will install the kernel. So now this was installed, and also the code here was executed. And now we can click here on plus code and insert a new code cell or also a markdown cell. So let's go ahead and select a new code cell. And now here we can write some more code. So say print hello second cell, for example, and then let's run this code as well. So this will run cell by cell, and now the results are saved. So for example, if we create some variables in here, let's say a equals 5, and then we can run this. And then later, if we go to a different cell, so let's create a third cell, and then we want to print a, so this was the variable, then now it still knows this. And this is super cool because, for example, now we can go back and change our code. For example, now we want to say a is 7. Then, of course, we have to rerun this cell again. And now if we also run this cell, then you see a is now 7. So we can go forth and back and change the code and experiment with all the different cells, and also the results are saved. So here you see the different checkpoints. And yeah, this just makes it super cool to experiment with your code. And this is how you can work inside VS Code directly. And now let me show you how to use the Jupyter Notebook platform. So to use the platform, you use your terminal and also make sure that you have installed this. And there are quite different ways how you can install this. Often with Anaconda, you can already use this. So you can say Jupyter Notebook, and then it should start the server. But if this does not work, and also if it doesn't show your environment inside the notebook, then I will show you these commands from Stack Overflow, how you can install this. So option 1 is to run the Jupyter server and the kernel inside the conda environment. So for this, you again create your environment and activate this, and then you say conda install Jupyter, and then you should be able to use Jupyter Notebook. Or the second option is to create a special kernel for the conda environment. So for this, again, activate your environment and then say conda install IPy kernel, and then IPython kernel install --user --name, and then the name of your environment. And then this is important, make sure to deactivate your environment and then say conda install Jupyter and then Jupyter Notebook. So let me try Jupyter Notebook inside the environment, and now let's see what happens. So this will now start the server on our local host. This is the classic Jupyter Notebook server. And here, for example, you see we already have one. And you can also now click on new, and now here you should be able to select the environment. And I'm not seeing the AI demo environment here, so I have to do some installation first. So let me close this again, and here let me say Control C and quit the server again. So let's try the second approach from here. So let's try inside of the environment. Let's try conda install IPy kernel and hit enter. So this is already here. So let's try the second one. So now we want to say IPython kernel install --user --name, and here we call this AI demo. This will now install the kernel for this environment. And now we say conda deactivate, and here we say Jupyter Notebook, and now it should start the server again. And if we click on new, we see it says AI demo. So now let's select this. And now here again we have the cells. So here we can say print hello. And let's, for example, run this. So you can say Shift and Enter. And now it will run this cell and insert a new one. And here we should be able to import NumPy as NP. Then again, we say Shift Enter. And this works because it correctly uses this environment. And then we can use NumPy. So we can say A equals NumPy dot array, and then again let's create a list, and then again here we can say print A and then Shift Enter, and now it's running this cell. And then here again we can change the cells as we want and the results are saved. So this is the second way. And the third way, which is the easiest by far, is to simply use a Google Colab, and this is a cloud-based environment. So for this, you can go to colab.research.google.com and hit enter. And then you can create a new notebook here. And now this will start a cloud-based notebook for you. And here again, you have different cells. So here again, we can run code. And what is super cool about a notebook is that first we get a GPU for free. So we can click on runtime and then change the runtime type to a GPU. So if you work with deep learning libraries like PyTorch and TensorFlow, then a GPU is super useful. And the second cool thing about a notebook is that here we get a pre-configured environment. So in the background, somewhere on a server, there's a Linux machine running. And on the machine, we already have a Python environment. And inside the environment, we already have all the or most of the packages we need. For example, here we already have NumPy. We also already have PyTorch, so we can say import torch. We can also import TensorFlow as TF, for example. And if we run this, then this should work. So yeah, this executed successfully. So now we can again select a new cell and then continue coding. So yeah, this is a cloud-based version of a notebook that Google provides for free. And like I said, this is the easiest option to get started with this. So it's super cool that it has a GPU and it supports many deep learning packages out of the box. But yeah, these are the three options. So in the next one, we actually start writing more Python code. And for this, we also use a Jupyter notebook. So let's go to the second lesson with Misra.